And good morning. Yes, I'm grossly late this morning. I am. My computer decided that it had lost the connection to StreamYard, which is the platform that I use that I can handle, getting my information onto YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. And for some reason this morning it was not working right. So I'm here. I know I'm a little late, and whoever can certainly join in, that is wonderful. If not, I'm just going to proceed as if you are there. How was your weekend? Hoping you had a wonderful, maybe even restful, or maybe an adventurous kind of weekend. I did a lot of stuff between the last time I was here on Friday and yesterday. In fact, yesterday was wonderful. It was our pastor's 20th anniversary of being at the helm, the leadership of our church, Greater Little Rock Baptist Church. And it was so good. It was just good. We were all dressed up in our green and white, the choir, and I tell you, and we had Lily, who's been a chartered member of the Mississippi Mass Choir, and that was wonderful to see somebody, you know, my size, letting it belt it out. It was just absolutely wonderful, and the children danced well. It was just a good day, just an absolute good day. And then after that, I went to lunch with some friends. A friend of mine, actually, the mother's a real good friend of mine. He's a good friend of mine too now, which is Antoine Knight. It was his birthday. And of course, his mother's Mrs. Grace Marshall. So that was just wonderful. Good morning, Calithia. How are you? Sorry for my lateness. I'm usually not very tardy. Usually I'm about a 2-3 minute person, but here I am today, 17 minutes off. But as I was saying, my computer wasn't connecting with Facebook, and so it kicked me all out. But anyway, I'm here now. Hope your weekend was good. I am excited about today because today is not a normal day. I'm not just doing a word. I'm doing numbers. I'm doing 6668. And I don't know if you all have seen the movie, the 6888 movie, released by Tyler Perry and a whole bunch of other people, which I would name in a minute. But it was absolutely my favorite movie that I saw a couple of weeks ago. And I said, I'd like to talk a little bit about the fact that sometimes history doesn't always tell the real of what went down, what went on. And this was a beautiful, story. I think I had touched on it maybe years ago. I happened to have come up on it on something I was reading, and I just thought that was wonderful. And I said, but I really need to encourage people to go online and actually look at the movie. It is on Netflix. It is streaming on Netflix. But I said I want to give you some tidbits about it. Well, first of all, we don't even have to go with just the plot. We can go with the fact of the plot of the movie was, it was just not just a story about courageous women, but women that left, that were sent overseas to do a job that was extremely difficult. It was to build morale. They were in charge of just taking care of the mail, which was not being delivered. And they said that they were just behind so far in the ability to deliver this mail. And therefore, the morale was down for the troops that were overseas. So these women were given the task, and now they weren't expected, mind you, to be able to handle the task that they were given. The other thing is that this was an all-Black Army battalion troop, all Black. And so in the day, there was always, we have to talk about the fact that history is history. It happens to be, in this instance, Black history. And it talks about, the fact that these ladies were doing something that even though the administration that sent them didn't really appreciate the fact that they were going, because they said they weren't going to do it. They were given actually 6 months to do it, and they did it in 3. They did it in 90 days. And they said they came up with a system that was called their shifts. And so the shifts went on, and I think there were 3 shifts during the course of a day, and the shifts would overlap just long enough to make sure the information that was being put out on continuity and who was dealing with what and what areas they were dealing in, and it was done. It was done. Sometimes people don't realize that organization really has no color. If you're organized, you can get things done. You can get things done. But the interesting thing, it says, so they talked about, it says it identified that there were 3 particular soldiers in the 6888 or the 6,888th who were killed on July 8th, 1945 in a vehicle accident while in the line of duty. They don't really speak much about that when you go back through the history, but they say that these women, they were laid to rest in the American Cemetery in Omaha Beach, Normandy. So they were actually buried abroad. They were not brought back to this country. And that source, they said that this was, and they said was Major Dominic Johnson, U.S. Army retired, and Dr. Brenda L. Moore, who booked To Serve My Country. And it gives the actual website of the 6888 veterans. And the information is just absolutely wonderful when you're reading it, because it really sure tells that history speaks for itself if people will allow it to be uncovered, if they will allow for it. So anyway, it says that the Army Women's Federation back in 2016 decided to finally write something on, and it actually inducted them into the history in Washington, D.C. But it says the World War II 688 or the 6888 Central Postal Directory Battalion was the first and the only all-Black female unit to be deployed overseas during World War II. During World War II, we that are younger than that age, we don't even know anything about it. World War II went on before I was born, and probably for many of us. And so we lived our lives maybe missing what happened. I never heard my mother mention it, or my father. And so I'm quite sure they lived during that period of time. I'm quite sure they knew what was going on. But I also remember being a child that didn't know the South. I didn't know, and I didn't understand discrimination in the context that many other people who were raised in the South knew of how things were done. But recently, and I don't know if I've told you, but recently I've been looking at my family lineage. And, last night I found a new website that kind of gave me some information on my father. And then I'm trying to look for my father's father, obviously my grandfather, and so forth and so on. And it's so interesting because in the clippings that didn't include my father's name or anything, but the name was related to the last name, of which my maiden name was Gary, Gary. And looking at that, I said, wow, it had where someone was killed in a church in Georgia, and they said that they shot them, and it says that they basically shot them dead, and then they burned the church. Well, that, just shocked me, the fact, because I don't remember much of that. I remember in the 60s, I remember them talking about, the Ku Klux Klan and those kinds of things. But, it was never like it was a central topic in our house. It's almost like when my parents were a part of that migration to the North, they left the stories there, even though I'm quite sure they had incidences in New York. I know they did, but they never passed it on to the younger children, the older children of of my parents knew. They knew what was going on. We didn't. We were more, and especially me because I was the baby, so we were more kind of coveted. So I learned about this stuff when I read it, but I never experienced it. I never experienced it that it was that close. I do remember the Birmingham bombing with the young children of the church. I do remember that. I do remember the boycott when I was very young. And I do remember those things. But when we look at our lives, we have to talk about there's a part of our lives that is relatable to the past. And do we know it? Do we know any of the things that went on? Do we know any of the things that had meaning for our current, lifestyle, the currency of it? So anyway, let me get back to the unit. The unit was so powerful. So the unit was active from 1945 to 1946 and consisted of 855 women under the command of Major Charity Adams. Now, if you ever go to Netflix and you see the movie is powerful. It is very powerful. It says that no matter what, no matter the rain, no matter the insults, no matter the conditions we live under, the coldness, the limitedness of food, uniforms, whatever it was they were dealing with, they just dealt with it as it approached. As they went through it, they promised themselves that they were intentional, and their intention was to complete the job that they were given to do. And it says their nickname, the 6888, and their motto was no male. It says no male, low morale. So therefore, the mail had to be delivered. No mail, no morale. The unit served at the home and in Europe, where they sorted and routed mail for millions of Americans, service members and civilians. So even the civilian community that was overseas were also receiving their mail from this group of women. And yeah, like all people that get together, yes, the movie shows the kind of things that they went through, the frustrations with each other, with the conditions they lived under, the food they ate, the clothes they were to wear, understanding rank and priority, and, being limited by what the names that they were being called, but they still made it. That's the interesting thing. And what I remember in seeing a follow-up interview with Tyler Perry talking about this movie, and it is his movie, along with so many others, and I will name them, but they said that he got a chance to speak with one of the women that served in this capacity before she died, and got a chance to actually show her the movie. Isn't that wonderful? The fact that you get to see history that you made, that you were a part of. That's you can't do much more with that but say thank you. Thank you. For me, I believe in God, so I'm going to say thank you, God, that I got to see that I did something that others benefited from. People just want to know their worth, and to know their worth is certainly important. And anyway, it says the unit served at home in Europe and, of course, served civilians. It said dividing the work into shifts that ran 7 days a week. 7 days a week. The women processed an average of 65,000 pieces of mail per shift. 65,000. Now, I'm going to ask you today, do you get occasionally other people's mail? I do. And it's sorted by a machine, okay? Or it might be sorted with the machine, or maybe it starts with the zip code. I don't know how it's done. I really don't. I said, I might need to find out. But, since email has become more and more important, there's still a need to have someone sorting mail that cannot go by email because it's confidential, or it's time sensitive, or it's whatever, or it needs an actual signature and not an electronic one. So have we changed? Good morning. Good morning. Yes. Did you see? So yes, 6888 is an amazing movie. Thank you so much, Cheryl. It is. It's just wonderful. Okay. So anyway, they said this mail would be, it would come in sometimes where the information could hardly be read, but they still stayed on it until they were able to find the mail, find the name, find where they could send it, and find out where this person was located. That to me, that's phenomenal. It says that the 6888 processed the mail, and they completed their mission in half the time. They were given they were given 100 in 60 days, and they completed it in 180 days, excuse me, 180 days, and they completed it in 90 days. You can't beat that. I remember when I worked, sometimes I brought my work home. It wasn't confidential, no. But in order for me to handle the caseload that I was given, I sometimes had to work the hours there and then come home to work hours at home in order to be on top of everything, because there really wasn't enough people. You think about that. Think about the workers nowadays and the workloads they're given and the limited number of people they have to do the work that at one time maybe took 7 people and they're down to 2, or it took 10 people and they're down to 1. They do that. Business for some people is just business. How it gets done, that's on you if they're paying you. So that I'm not getting in any way into the current situation. I'm just saying that's what happens. It says the battalion was led by Charity, and its success was believed to be the key boosting of morale among Americans, service members, U.S. government personnel, and the Red Cross workers. It says stationed throughout Europe. So can you imagine being overseas? And I was overseas for a while, and there was a time where I couldn't get mail because it went to my husband's unit before it ever got to me. So if my mother wrote a letter, the letter may really be 3 weeks late before I ever received it, or 3 weeks in process, let me put it that way, before I ever received it. Nonetheless, I still got the letter, and I was still excited because where we lived in Europe, we didn't have a phone at our place, and of course, no such thing as a cell phone. No. Of course, if we lived there now, it would be a piece of cake because you can talk with anybody worldwide, as long as you have that extended coverage. But for us, we wrote letters, and I'd hear from my family in New York whenever I could. But those were the times, and can you imagine these times when people are in a situation where it's World War II, or it's the follow up to it, and they're still in Europe and no mail. You have to say that morale must have been an all-time low. It says these folks, these ladies, it says they shattered barriers and played a pivotal role in assuring that mail reached American troops. And then not until March 2016 did the United States Army Women's Federation inducted the 6888 Central Postal Directory Battalion into the Army Women's Hall of Fame. Now, help me out. 1946. Okay, 1945 to 46. That's a good amount of time. 75? Nope, 78 years. It's a long time. Well, they did it in 16, so I have to back up. I can't talk about it being now. So 2016, it's still a long time. For you to get recognized. And sometimes we get recognized posthumously. We're not available when it would be nice to hear that you've done a job well and you served your country well and you've been, basically a game changer. To know that would certainly be wonderful before, your eyes are shut for good, to be a part of that. It says L.C. Garris, a veteran from the 688, was on hand at the induction of the ceremony. L.C. Elsie Gussie, and I didn't get how old she was at the time. But the 2024 Networks film is so good, and I certainly encourage you all to find it. I wanted to do one little Black History Month. I used to do it the whole month of February a couple of years ago, but the words now are just so good. I've been having fun doing the words that I kind of abandoned it, but I didn't want to. At least I wanted to do one. And what it talks about, it says the 6888. It says everything you need to know about the Kerry Washington, who stars as the lead and the lead actress. It says it's in the World War II's only women's Army Corps unit of color. So they don't even call them Black; they call them of color. And it says it was released in December of 2024. It says almost a full century is before, Tyler Perry decided that he was going to work with other people, because he says he wrote it and directed it, and the project was produced alongside Nicole Avant, Angie Bones, Tony L. Strickland, Carrie Selig, and Carlotta Espinosa. And it says the 6888 Central Postal Directory Battalion contributed to the war effort in a unique way by doing that sorting of mail. Sometimes we think what we do doesn't really help because it may be minuscule in how we're doing it. Maybe what we're doing is so time consuming, so tedious, that we forget that in the bigger picture, it's making a difference. And if no one ever tells you, thank you, I appreciate it, what you've done, it's a part of a bigger picture, sometimes we never know it. We never know. We never know. So it's nice. I tell you, I've always been a person that if I ever have people that are working with me, they will know my gratitude. They will know my appreciation because they didn't have to do it. They did not have to do it. And it says, but having completed their task and such in the 90 days, that it made it understood that where determination is, completion gets accomplished. When you are determined, you will complete whatever. That's my takeaway today. Whatever you do, if you're given something to do, even if it's tedious, even if it's basically condescending in a way for you to even be doing it, meaningless to you, but really has a purpose on the higher end. Even though it's hard to do, we sometimes have to accept what we were given to do. We don't like it. I've done things. I remember at one time I was right after high school and on my way to college. I went to work at a laundry. It's like a restaurant laundry business, hotel, restaurant laundry type business. And I remember after the string machine cut me up, I said, I'm done, because I had gotten all tied up in it and had cut me with some of the blades because it was basically going forth and it was tying up things. And I got my arm caught in the machine. So they said, this is not for you. It wasn't. Sometimes we also realize that even though we're trying to do as much as we can for as little as what they're going to pay us, sometimes we have to say we're going to have to back out on this one. After the cut, I said, I'm done. I'm not going to do it anymore. But anyway, this was the only one I'm going to do this month of stepping away from doing my words, because I thought if you have Netflix, stream it. It's just such an interesting film. And this is how the I even copied off so I could have a picture of the actual announcement on Netflix when they're getting ready to do it. And Netflix did good by this. I really believe that not everything. The other thing that I wanted to say is that this was a love story too, because back in the day, blacks and whites were not, they were never really encouraged to form relationships. But this was a love story where, somebody just loved someone else. They were different, they were from different racial backgrounds. But in this case, it never wavered. The white young man loved this young lady, and it showed through all the way in the movie. Every time she'd get her letters and she would be excited, even though she was a part of this 6888. She was a part of it. So we don't ever know what the significance is of our lives, but sometimes it will sure tell. It will sure tell. But anyway, that's my little session for today. I apologize once again for being a little late, 17 minutes late, only because I just couldn't get on Facebook as well, but I'm back. I appreciate you. I love you guys. Listen, hit the share button and let it be shared that there is Sandy, Dr. Winnie's here to just do some little investigating and come up with some things. Mostly it's words. Today I use numbers. Okay. Have a wonderful week, starting this week, starting today. And I'll be back on Wednesday, and Wednesday it will be a regular word. Okay. I love you guys. Appreciate you very much. Have a good day. Thanks. Bye-bye.